It's 1963, and Henry Ford II, grandson of the man who put America on wheels, is staring at a telegram from Italy. Ferrari has just humiliated him, publicly, brutally. The deal was simple. Ford would buy Ferrari. Enzo Ferrari would get huge money, Ford would get his racing glory. But at the last minute, the old Italian fox pulled out, insulting Ford's honor in the process. He basically said Ford couldn't build a real sports car if their lives depended on it. Henry Ford II turned red as a stop sign. His pride wasn't just wounded, it was shattered into a million pieces across the Italian countryside. "We're going to beat Ferrari at Le Mans," he declared to anyone who'd listen. "And we're going to do it in 4 years." His engineers looked at each other like he'd just announced plans to fly to the moon using a bicycle. But there was one man who didn't laugh. His name was Roy Lunn. Before we get into it, please subscribe to the channel and tell us what drives your car passion. From Verlin's Autotorium, this is Hidden Car Heroes. Born in London, trained as a pilot in the Royal Air Force, educated in both mechanical and aeronautical engineering. This wasn't your typical Detroit grease monkey. This was a man who thought in 3 dimensions while everyone else was still working in 2. Lunn had already shocked Ford's executives once before. Back in 1958, he'd walked into a boardroom and announced that the future of cars wasn't bigger engines and longer hoods. Rather, he said it was something radical, a mid-engine design. "Put the engine behind the driver," he said, "and you'd have perfect balance. Better handling, faster lap times." They patted him on the head like he was a child with a crayon drawing. But Henry Ford II remembered that crazy Englishman when Ferrari broke his heart. "Roy," he said, "I need a car that can beat Ferrari at their own game. Can you do it?" Lunn looked him straight in the eye. "Give me 18 months and a blank check." What happened next was automotive warfare. Here's what you didn't know about those 18 months. Lunn didn't start from scratch. He was too smart for that. He bought a British race car called the Lola Mark VI. Basically used it as expensive inspiration. But everything else? That was pure American ingenuity mixed with Lunn's European racing knowledge. The first problem: Ford's V8 engines were built for straight-line power, not the twisty, demanding circuits of European racing. They'd overheat, break down, or simply explode when pushed to their limits. The second problem: Ford's production line was designed to build thousands of identical, non-precision cars. The GT40 needed to be built like a Swiss watch. Precise, perfect, and unforgiving of mistakes. The third problem, and this one almost killed the whole project: company politics. The backstabbing started almost immediately. Ford's racing division was split into camps. The old-school Detroit guys thought Lunn's mid-engine design was European nonsense. They wanted to stick a bigger engine in a Mustang and call it a day. Then there were the bean counters, who watched every dollar Lunn spent like hawks circling roadkill. Every time a prototype crashed, and yes, they crashed, the accountants sharpened their pencils and prepared obituaries for the entire program. Lunn found himself fighting wars on 3 fronts: against Ferrari on the track, against physics in the workshop, and against his own company in the boardroom. But Roy Lunn had a secret weapon. The weapon was a small Ford-owned company called Kar Kraft. It sounded like low-end 2 a.m. infomercial car cleaning product. But Kar Kraft was Ford's secret laboratory, hidden away in Dearborn, Michigan. It was small enough to move fast, independent enough to take risks, and crazy enough to believe they could actually pull this off. While the main Ford factories were building Falcons and Fairlanes, Kar Kraft was hand-assembling racing machines that looked like they'd dropped from the future. The men working there weren't your typical assembly line workers. These were craftsmen, artists, obsessives who'd spend 16 hours perfecting the angle of a rear wing or the flow of air through a radiator. They had one shot to get it right. The first GT40s that rolled out of Kar Kraft were disasters. They crashed. They caught fire. They broke down so often that Ferrari mechanics started sending sympathy cards. At the 1964 Le Mans race, all 3 GT40s embarrassingly failed to finish. The automotive press had a field day. Ford's folly, they called it. American arrogance meets European reality. Inside Ford, the knives came out. Board members who'd never changed their own oil were suddenly experts on racing strategy. They wanted Lunn fired, the program canceled, the whole humiliating mess swept under a very expensive carpet. That's when Roy Lunn made the decision that changed automotive history. He walked into Henry Ford Secca's office and told him something nobody else had the courage to say. "Sir, we're going about this all wrong. We're trying to out Ferrari at their own game. Instead, we need to be more American than they are Italian." "What does that mean?" Ford II asked. "It means we stop being polite. We build the biggest, meanest, most brutally powerful race car anyone's ever seen. We don't finesse our way to victory, we muscle our way there." Enter the 427 big block. 7 liters of pure American anger, wrapped in a carbon fiber body that looked like it was designed by NASA and built by demons. The GT40 Mark II wasn't just faster than the Ferrari, it was faster than physics should have allowed. But the real breakthrough wasn't the engine, it was the people. Lunn had quietly assembled a team of misfits and geniuses who shared one obsession: beating Ferrari. They worked 18-hour days, slept on shop floors, and measured their success not in dollars, but in lap times. There was the suspension specialist who'd wake up at 3 a.m. with ideas about spring rates. The aerodynamics expert who built his own wind tunnel in his garage. The engine builder who could tell if a motor was healthy just by listening to its idle. These weren't corporate executives in suits. These were greasy-fingered perfectionists who understood that the difference between victory and failure could be measured in thousands of seconds. June 18, 1966. Le Mans, France. 24 hours of racing. 49 cars started. The question wasn't whether Ford could beat Ferrari. By then, everyone knew their GT40s were rockets. The question was whether they could survive 24 hours of sustained violence. Ferrari threw everything they had at Ford, their latest, greatest, most advanced prototype racers, driven by the best drivers money could buy. But Roy Lunn's American hot rods didn't just beat Ferrari, they humiliated them. Ford finished first, second, and third. A complete Ferrari shutout. The ultimate revenge. In the pits, Henry Ford II was crying. Grown men were hugging strangers. And somewhere in the crowd, a British engineer with grease under his fingernails and victory in his heart was probably thinking about his next impossible project. Ford went on to win Le Mans 4 straight years. But here's what makes this story truly American. Roy Lunn didn't stop there. After conquering European racing, he moved on to create the modern SUV, helped design presidential limousines, and mentored the next generation of engineers who would build everything from military vehicles to high-tech spacecraft. He proved that with enough stubbornness, creativity, and good old-fashioned hard work, Americans could beat anyone at anything. Roy Lunn was a simple man who started as a crazy dreamer with an impossible idea, ended up changing not just racing, but the entire automotive industry. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into automotive history.